Today we will be going on Moho, and the task of the jour is a Mohole in one. So whether or not we will be happy and strike an eagle, birdie, par, or we will be unlucky and get a bogey, remains to be seen. So golfing shenanigans aside, let's get on with the mission. Mohole is one is name of the mission, and the idea is that we should be landing on a Mohole on the north part of Moho. For those of you that don't know, a Mohole is basically a glitch from the KSP 1 where it's the top north pole of the Moho, and the texture weren't aligned correctly, so there was a giant hole on the north pole of the Moho. So, and it sticked around, so nowadays we do have an anomaly, which is a Mohole. Yeah. Anyway. That being said, what we are going to do, we have 9,472 from the previous mission, which was basically the Cappy Rock. If you've missed it out, I'm going to be posting the link in the comment below. However, we will be unlocking the XL coupling. I'm thinking because the coupling is important for us to be able to stage and decouple the extra large tanks, which are kind of important for constructing the Interplanetary craft. I don't know, I was thinking between those and the XL hydrogen tanks because those might be mighty useful. However, I'm thinking the XL coupling will make us more good because we wouldn't be able to stage anything if we didn't have these decouplers. And ultimately we are still struggling to get things into space, so decoupling is where it's at. Right. With that being said, we're gonna go with the smallest craft possible because we need to be landing on Moho. So tiny probe, a couple of batteries, you know, reaction wheels, and I was actually designing this initially to be able to be retrieved and brought back to Kerbin because I thought, you know, naively, that, well, I could be designing a craft that could go to Mohole, land, and then return. Yeah, what can I tell you? I'm young and enthusiastic. No, all jokes aside, I mean, it's possible. I've seen people do it, but I haven't succeeded yet myself, so I was thinking, let's try different approaches. Shall we have the Nerva stage? Yeah, Nerva actually gives us 1.4 thousand meters per second, but actually the fuel is not very dense, so those might be good for, you know, construction in orbit, but when it comes to construction on the ground, they're not really good, so maybe I'll just have to wait for colonies to arrive. I was just trying to experiment with flatter tanks because I can fit those within the fairing, of course, no problem. However, when it comes to that, it's still, once again, not very dense fuel and not a lot of delta V to be gained. And thrust to weight is, yeah, decent, but normally abysmally low. So, what we went with a little bit more classical design and something that will be able to land on the Moho. Remember, we need to take this bad boy and we have to land it on Moho. Also, I thought, like, hold on, let me design a return stage that will be returning back to Kerbin. After all, we need 21,000 meters per second delta V, so this would be re-entering Kerbin, and hopefully it just might survive. You never know. So yeah, and I was thinking 2,500 meters per second delta V should be enough to get us ejected out of Moho and hopefully on some weird trajectory towards Kerbin, at least so that we get an aero brake. You know, one can hope. And then I stuck the 2.5 meter fairing on top of it and I decided to put the skipper. The skipper is a fantastic upper stage and that one is very efficient, so we managed to get a total of 3,000 meters per second there. You know, maybe even more, 3.8 thousand meters per second, and that puts us in the 6,000 ballpark. So this craft should be able to eject out of Moho and come back to Kerbin. However, I was thinking maybe we'll also need to launch from the surface, and the surface will be this, you know, the North Pole. So that obviously means that we will need to be doing a better job of it, and I'm a little bit worried here. So I'm thinking maybe it'd have a bunch of landing legs so that we could land on Moho. The intended idea is that this would be landing on Moho. Long story short. Without too much fuss, but this should be landing on Moho. Right. Having said that, I'm actually thinking that... so 6.2 thousand should be from Moho surface to Kerbin surface enough. Given the fact that we are aero braking, I think that should be fine. Now, there comes a question of getting this bad boy onto Moho and also having it land and all that jazz, because that's also something that we need to worry about, clearly. Rearranging the stacking a little bit will help us determine the real delta V and the requirements. So there we go. This looks good. So now let us be detaching, putting everything in a fairing, because this will need to be encased in the fairing for the rigors of, you know, thermal heating and all that jazz when we are launching from Kerbin. There we go. And I'm just gently gonna be folding these rocket upwards so that it is pointy shape. I mean, after all, you heard, you know, the Duke says he wants pointy rockets, right? So when it comes to that, and let's see, I'm gonna disable the fairing so we don't need to watch it. I'm gonna be putting 2 to 3 reaction wheels, because I think honestly we're gonna need those. Those are the big kahunas, and this stage is now should be capturing and landing on Moho. So this stage should be capture and land on Moho stage. So that's what is being, so 2,800 meters per second roughly. Yeah, that should be, you know, with Moho intercept low orbit, that should be enough. It says 2.4 thousand, I'm counting on 3.280. Okay, fair enough. So that thing needs obviously more reaction wheels, because it's going to be controlling the whole craft. This is the craft that should be getting to Moho. So the next thing that would be happening is the big tank, and that's the big tank that should be getting this thing out of Kerbin's sphere of influence. So speaking about that, that should mean, you know, Kerbin's sphere of influence should be gone outside. And that part is a little bit tricky. I was trying to see if we can put, you know, not the Labradoodle obviously, but here, if I put the Labradoodle, no, that's too low thrust. I really need the rhinos. Alright, in that case, I'm thinking I might actually need more thrust to weight to basically, to be able to eject. So I was thinking that I should probably go, you know, to the sides. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna be putting 2 additional boosters on the sides, but first let us take care of this bad boy. And this bad boy is really, it's really bad when it comes to this, because it doesn't have a lot of thrust to weight. However, if I place it with this engine, alright, yeah, now we're talking. That's 1,941, but I would need more. So if I'm using those, I might as well be placing 3 of them, because if I place 3 of them on the sides, then I will be having a lot more oomph. And I'm gonna be placing 3 Rhino engines with 3 tanks. That should give us a more thrust to weight. I'm counting that 0.7 to 1.0. That should be enough to get us ejected out of Kerbin, and if needed to do adjustments in terms of all orbital plane changes and all that jazz. So that's kind of my hopes and dreams. Now that's our interplanetary craft. Yeah, small, right? I know, but ultimately that craft should be possible to get into orbit. Yeah, you would think that this would be the entire ascent stage. No. That's really what will be launching from orbit onwards. And now I'm starting to think, okay, should I be placing like this big heavy tank and then having a mammoth engine underneath? That gives me 0.40 thrust to weight, and actually it's not that great. Okay, now let's see if we can place like these boosters, and these boosters would give us with plenty more mammoths. That gives us 1.21 thrust weight. Okay, that's much better. Remember, this is in vacuum, so if it was in atmosphere, it probably would be below 1. So I was thinking, okay, let's do with 6. 6 is actually much better, and those 6, of course we're going to do onion staging here, because those need to be disconnecting the moment when we hit anything of significance. So onion staging it is, and still it doesn't have enough. Okay, let's place another set of boosters over here. How much will that improve our thrust to weight? And I'm thinking I'm gonna be putting, you know, like this big ones, and then if I put yeah, okay, that's not helping actually. That's not helping at all. Okay, then I would say, yeah. Nope, not really. That's not working. Okay, we'll take a smaller booster. Let's place it like this, and then with this cone. Okay, that works. We're gonna rotate it inwards. Fine, so it's more aerodynamic. Put a small nose cone, aerodynamic, come on. There we go. And then we were gonna be placing 2 of them per extra booster, so... yeah, you know what they say, if ever in doubt, add more boosters, because that will help you progress significantly. Right, so all we need to do is do another set of staging, and obviously, you know, fuel lines, because they matter. So those fuel lines are gonna be connecting inwards, and everything we should be connecting and strutting everything together, because everything will mean it's hunky-dory. Right. Okay, I mean, to me that looks good enough. Let's put on the launch clamps. The launch clamps should be able to hold this thing in place, I hope at least. If I'm wrong, you know, things will fail spectacularly, and that's also okay. Speaking of Separatrons, I want to be putting Separatrons on the big boosters. I don't think we will need it on the smaller ones. Famous last words, you know. But yeah, let's see if we will be able to get away with just the Separatrons on the big boosters, and if it will be working fine. Let's save the craft and let's get it ready for the launch. It's big, it's beautiful. Well, it's clear how that went.
Again!
Yeah. This time, actually, on the river, it sounded pretty good, and it looked to seem to have gone rather well. Then again, on staging, not so well. At least I was able to test staging, and it seemed to be working correctly. But you know what that means?
Again!
Yes. So that meant that I had to go back to the drawing board and install the Separatrons, which are gonna be hopefully ditching those boosters away. Because I tried like 3 times, and every time the boosters basically, you know, clipped into and failed miserably. So, having said that, let's try this time. Needless to say, this was wobbling like crazy, and I needed like to disable SAS for like a lot time before, so it settles down. Physics was freaking out. And hitting the boosters! There we go. For your benefit, just to know, this is 9 times accelerated. Yes, I was looking at the PowerPoint presentation. However, let's see how did it go. Upwards it was actually doing pretty stable, no over wobbling, and with the Separatrons, the first separation worked like a charm. The second separation we're going to tackling much later on. There was some, you know, loading periods and stuttering, but all in all, the craft did perform well, and we were able to get our apoapsis around 120 kilometer mark, which is kind of good because this vessel is kind of huge, so we did want to, you know, get rid of it, etc. Right, so 113. Now, time to set up the maneuver node. And then I started to do the burn, and I realized one thing. Hold on, why can't I drag this? It's probably a bug or a glitch. Oh, never mind. Tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna test it manually. I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't know why this was happening. For the sharp-eyed among you, can you tell me why? Why is this line red? Why do you think this wouldn't work? Is it a bug? Let me know in the comments. You have another 10 seconds. Okay, maybe not 10, it was 5. But what I realized is that my thrust to weight on this stage is way too low, so I needed to ditch it actually if I ever wanted to have a chance of making orbit. So there was like 400 and 500 meters per second wasted as I disconnected it and engaged my 3 boosters to actually circularize. Yeah, while this is not optimal, it did manage to get into orbit after quite a significant burn and a lot of nail biting on my end. But in the end, we managed. So here you go. Great. Now, at least from this perspective, I have 12,000 meters per second to get to Moho and land. I can do that, obviously. So, thinking about it, let's create a maneuver node just to correct our orbit a little bit, and after some burning we're gonna be pointing prograde and do this tiny minuscule burn and everything will be hunky-dory. Right, time to plan the big Moho ejection maneuver, and that one is kinda tricky because what you want to do, you want to get to Moho, so you have to burn retrograde. This is a retrograde burn and pretty hefty one at that. Gravitation is strong over there, so it requires a horrendous amount of delta V. However, if anybody can do it, we can. So here is a little bit my gripe why precision node is actually very important, and I cannot wait. I mean, in my talk tonight, he did confirm that this is being looked at and it will come, but he didn't want to, you know, comment on when. And as you can see here, I'm trying now to do some finagling to be able to understand when is the periapsis at the lowest, what's my optimal ejection angle. Right. Alright, and yeah, phase angle is good, it's just the ejection angle that sucked. Anyway, with this alignment I was trying to get some sort of decent periapsis, and with you know, some 5 minutes to spare, the burn was on. 2.7 thousand meters per second, and also one thing to note, we'll be completing it on a suboptimal stage because we're only going to be using this bad boy, one of the Rhino engines, with a total thrust to weight of 0.50. However, this one is for the ejection burn, so it doesn't matter that much as long as the engine can push the vessel out of the Kerbin sphere of influence, because once we get out of it, it will be fine. We don't need anything special from that perspective. As long as it is able to push us out of the Kerbin sphere of influence, then the thrust doesn't matter. But you know what they say, in thrust we trust. So that's the case here as well. So obviously we were able to do the ejection. It will be another minute, and this was once again 8 times accelerated because it really took a long time. However, it was successful, and all in all, we were able to successfully, you know, stage and get to the basically Moho near periapsis, so to say. So the next thing is to, you know, align in terms of the orbital alignment, or actually inclination. And that is also taking a pretty penny. That one is taking 3,000 meters per second. Horrendous amount. I know you could have just gone with the optimal transfer window, and I would have, but I honestly don't know how to put it, how to draw it. At least not in KSP 2. In KSP 1 we had a nice, you know, mod from Trigger AU, transfer window planner. Here you have to do things on your own. Anyway, having said that, after a lot of finagling, I was able to secure a very close encounter. It's not perfect, but it's close enough. And it takes 2,500 meters per second. So we're gonna be doing the burn. The burn I've once again accelerated greatly because after a while it gets kind of boring if you have too much long of a burns. But I mean, Moho is difficult, and it damn well should be. So yeah. With Moho, the hardest thing is actually, you know, intercepting it, getting it into its sphere of influence, and capturing around it. If you're managing to do those things, I mean, once you list it, it's actually everything that you're doing for Moho. But yeah, Moho is hard. So 40 seconds to burn, and hopefully we're gonna get our apoapsis down to 13,560,000 as I measured it correctly, or thereabout, 13.6 million, right? And disconnect, and seems to be going fine. Now, the next burn should be happening somewhere around here at the kerbol periapsis, and then we're gonna be trying to decelerate so that we ensure that we have a decent encounter with Moho. However, we want to have it that the relative speed between the craft and Moho is also very low, because if they meet at like 5,000 meters per second, you know, difference, then really doesn't matter because we wouldn't be able to stop. So that's the idea. The idea that would be that the orbits of Craft and Moho should be similar at the moment when they meet. Right. So that's another burn of 2.3 thousand meters per second. You know, we just keep spending them. Those thousands of meters per second, they're just gone, man. I mean, you cannot believe it. It's crazy. Okay, an additional tweak was needed to secure us an encounter. Look at that. Over here we're gonna have a decent encounter with a little bit of fiddling. We're gonna make sure that the relative speed is also there. And that fiddling took me like the better portion of like 20 minutes, so you're gonna be seeing some portion of it, but not everything, obviously. There we go. Yeah. Okay, so 2000 meters per second relative speed. From that one we can still decelerate because we have a decent thrust to weight on the inner stage. And yeah, let's just skip to that part before we do the burn. So, warping to the maneuver. We will be soon there. There we go, almost there. And then it will be a big burn of 780 meters per second with some 2 more thousand to be done later on. That was what was listed for orbital insertion at 3.2 thousand meters per second. Right. Okay, time warp halted due to the proximity. Great. And in 30 seconds we will be kicking the afterburners. Alright, getting ready for the Moho intercept burn. That will be happening in some 20 seconds. Okay, getting ready to burn in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition. There we go. Another accelerated burn for your benefit, and hopefully it will secure us a close encounter. Ever so gently. I'm really missing, I think the UI bugged out because I'm not seeing the yellow marker at the bottom. But it is what it is. We'll just have to fly blind, I guess. Okay, that looks good to me. So on the next orbit we're probably gonna have a Moho periapsis, as you can tell here. And we are gonna be performing the adjustments because we want to have the periapsis exactly above the Mohole. So we are adjusting it here and now because here and now it's cheap to adjust. It's a roughly 30 to 100 meters per second correction. However, if we do it later, it's gonna be much costlier. So at this point, it's basically negligible burn. So it's a huff and a puff, and then we are gonna be on the right trajectory. Right. 44 meters per second. Right, and that's gonna be happening in T-minus 160 days. Yeah, these missions take forever. It's the generation of missions that is being applied here. However, we're getting ready, turning the craft, and let's hit in the warp to maneuver. So another circle around the sun, what can I tell you? Our focus is on Moho, so the craft is coming to us. Okay, there we go. And soon enough, it will, in 3 hours, we will be performing the burn. Ultimately, I don't think we even need to wait for those 3 hours. If we just, you know, press the burn and as long as we are pointing in the right direction, our orbit will shift, and that's kind of important. So, getting ready to do the burn. Accelerating until our burn is exactly done, negating everything I just said. Yeah, there we go. Sometimes when you do post-production videos, things happen. By the way, guys, if you like the episode, do flick a like at it, press subscribe for more KSP2 and other space games content. And special thanks to my, patrons and channel members. You guys help me fulfill my dreams, what I'm doing here, and I appreciate it a lot. Your help is truly appreciated. Having said that, I need to do a little bit of burn just to correct this Moho periapsis, but I think I'm gonna do when I enter the Moho sphere of influence, which should be rather shortly. I'm not gonna be creating another maneuver node. Oh, actually I could. If I wink it just over there, point the craft maneuver prograde and do a tiny burn, then we don't need to deal with it later. And it's actually quite cheap, it's just 4 meters per second, so it's not really that big of a deal, even. Right, okay. Now, having said that, I'm kind of thinking, if we go now and do this tiny burn, let us accelerate until we get into the Moho sphere of influence. Time warp to a point and kicking the acceleration button. Shall we go? Time warp to a point. Yes, please. Alright, and we are very close to Moho, so let me just transition into the Moho sphere of influence, and then we're gonna be planning our Moho injection burn, or actually orbital insertion burn around Moho with a polar orbit. It should be the polar orbit if we ever want to reach the Moho periapsis, so that's kind of important. There we go, come on. Ever so gently. There we go, and there we are. We are within Moho sphere of influence as indicated by our data science report, which we're immediately performing and sending. Maneuver plan will be happening above the Mohole, and let us just do a burn. It's gonna be 1572 meters per second, and once we do that, we will be successfully inserted around Moho, you know. I really like the music. Moho music is epic. Okay, I'm having still troubles with the camera. Devs, if we could please fix the camera before the colonists come, that would be amazing. Give me back my celestial view, please, you know. There we go. We are coming in hard, and burn will be happening in 7 minutes and 50 seconds. There we go. Coming close. It's a beautiful view, Moho, and this lighting is pretty harsh, but then again, it's no atmosphere to scatter it, so as harsh as it is accurate. Getting ready, and we are ready to kick in the next science, so we're gonna be transmitting them all. Every ounce of science we can collect and send, we're gonna be squeezing out. Right, and if you can tell, there is a big crater above, and we are getting ready to do the burn. Okay, let's hit in the burn. There we go. I needed to pause because by accident I was pressing the wrong button, but things can happen, you know. I'm kind of a bad pilot when it comes to that. Alright, 10 more seconds until we get an orbital insertion, and then we should be focusing more on the landing. Okay, we have successfully inserted ourselves in the orbit around Moho, and now the next thing to happen is on the Moho periapsis. I'm gonna plan a maneuver node that should hopefully be getting us all the way to the Moho. And it's finally time that we think about the golf shenanigans. So guys, what do you think? All bets are made here. Do you think that I'm gonna make it a whole Mohole in one, or it will be, you know, eagle, birdie, par, bogey, or double bogey? What do you think? You have roughly 1 minute to post your comments here before I actually start maneuvering. Okay, so the burn is coming up in 2 minutes and 20 seconds. I'm obviously gonna accelerate this by a little bit because I do want to make my orbit nice and circular, and that's kind of the step one. So step one is make it circular, and then second one is, you know, just glide it in all the way down into the hole. Hopefully. Now let's see what happens. 30 seconds, decelerating gently, and you know what they say, here goes nothing. So we are 7 seconds from the burn and kicking the burn, so the burn is going to be 251 meters per second to get us nice and circular. Perfect. Having said that, now it's the final stretch, guys. Now is the moment we've been waiting for. Now is the moment where we're supposed to be coming to Mohole and hopefully scoring that eagle. Let's go for eagle, shall we? For those of you that are not aware, those terms, eagle, birdie, par, double par, are actually terms from the golf. Eagles mean, I think, 2 minus than expected. Birdie is 1 less than expected. Par is, you know, you're on par with how many shots it would take you. And then bogey is if you're 1 down, and double bogey is 2 down, from what I understand from golfing. I'm not a golf player. I've used to play links on my PC, so yeah, bear with me. Anyway, we are burning, and I'm trying to point the rocket in the correct orientation, and it's kind of hard because when you're on the North Pole, you have an additional challenge that your magnetic compass is constantly getting screwed over. So you have to be really careful where you're pointing and how you do these things, because your controls are playing tricks on you. Okay, and we're coming in hot. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna decelerate my, you know, acceleration, and hopefully we're gonna have enough oomph so that we can land on this damn thing. All right, come on. Okay, is it gonna be an eagle? Nope. Maybe. Nope. Okay, not an eagle. A birdie then. Okay, let's point the craft. It's kind of hard because my nav wall, as you can tell, is dancing all over the place. And really, honestly, guys, this is my first time ever that I'm landing in a Mohole. KSP 1 or 2. Can you imagine that? Yeah, I'm that bad. What can I tell you? So this is a first for me as well. Okay, I'm dancing all over the place. What I do understand is when I'm landing that I should be aligning with my green retrograde marker. That's how much I know. But even my, you know, controls on my keyboard are getting swapped. So wherever I turn, they're just getting willy-nilly. So it's kind of hard, but apparently so far so good. We are descending down at the rate of 50 meters per second, which is slightly disconcerting. And there is the anomaly. Mohole in 1, that's the mission. And as we are coming in, I would like to just gently decrease. I should have taken lights on this thing. Okay, decreasing the velocity, kicking it down hard, and I don't have landing legs, so let's just see if I manage to just gently touch down. 7 meters per second, come on. It doesn't need to be pretty, I just need to survive. Okay, and science available, mission control, and our antenna is still intact. Beautiful. Let's transmit all of the science, and this is mission successful for the Grumforks team. Awesome. So let's go back to the KSC and see how much science did we collect. Beautiful. We have collected some science. 3.9 thousand we had already. We had 3.4, so it's around 500 collected, plus 3,000. There we go. Beautiful. That will net us 6.9 thousand of science, which we're going to be using in the following episodes. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.